Welcome back. Tonight we enter the brownstone's quiet rooms, where Nero Wolfe reclines among orchids and brandy, while Archie Goodwin's footsteps hint that trouble is already at the door. In the shadowed heart of Manhattan, where neon flickered and secrets whispered in the hum of new machines, a thief slipped through a locked door without a trace, stealing not gold or gems, but a mind, a coded genius etched on 72 punch cards. By dawn, Wall Street trembled, fortunes bled, and Nero Wolfe's brownstone would become the stage for a puzzle where every player hid a lie, and the truth danced just beyond the light. Chapter 1. The Digital Disturbance. The brownstone on West 35th Street stood like a sentinel in the autumn dusk, its sandstone facade catching the last glints of October light in 1955. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old books, Fritz Brenner's simmering coq au vin, and the faint musk of Nero Wolfe's orchids, which he tended with a zeal most men reserved for lovers or liquor. I, Archie Goodwin, sat at my desk in the office, pecking at a typewriter that had seen better days, logging expenses from a case we'd wrapped last week, a dreary affair involving a pilfered diamond brooch and a Park Avenue widow with more tears than sense. The typewriter's clatter was the only sound, save for the occasional clink of glass, as Wolfe, ensconced in his custom-built armchair, sipped beer and turned the pages of Orchidaceae, a study in hybridization. He was deep in a chapter on Cymbidium crossbreeding, his massive frame, 1/7 of a ton as he liked to boast, perfectly still, his eyes half closed in that deceptive doze that meant his brain was churning. The doorbell's sharp buzz cut through the calm like a switchblade. I glanced at the clock. 7:43 p.m., late for visitors, especially unannounced ones. Wolfe's head lifted a fraction, his lips pursing in irritation. "Archie," he rumbled, not looking up. "If that is a solicitor, dispatch them with prejudice." I grinned, swinging my feet off the desk. "Maybe it's a dame with a sob story." "You'd like that, wouldn't you?" "Phooey," he muttered, returning to his book. I crossed the hall to the front door, peering through the one-way glass. Saul Panzer stood on the stoop, his lean frame bundled in a gray overcoat, fedora tilted just so. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, met mine through the glass, and he gave a slight nod, urgent but controlled. Saul didn't rattle easily, so this meant trouble. I opened the door. "Saul, what's cooking? You look like you just saw a ghost in a poker game." "Close enough," he said, stepping inside. His voice was low, clipped. "Got a client at my office." "She's in a jam, Archie, and it's the kind that needs Wolfe's brain. She won't talk to anyone else." I raised an eyebrow. "She?" "Spill it, Saul. What's the pitch?" "Not here," he said, glancing toward the office. "Bring Wolfe in, or I'll drag her here myself. It's big, computers, money, and a heist that's got the cops stumped." I whistled softly. Computers were the new kid on the block, all punch cards and blinking lights. The kind of thing that made my head hurt, but got Wolfe's curiosity purring. "All right, come in, but if he throws a fit, you're taking the heat." Back in the office, Wolfe hadn't moved, but his eyes flicked up as Saul entered. "Mr. Panzer," he said, his tone a mix of frost and curiosity. This intrusion had better be justified. "I am engaged in matters of consequence." Saul didn't flinch. "Nero, I've got a client who's in deep. Evelyn Carver works for CyberTech Solutions. They're a new outfit, building those electronic brains, computers, for businesses. Her algorithm, a program that predicts stock market moves, was stolen from a locked safe. Someone's using it to rig trades, siphoning millions. The police are chasing their tails, and her company's about to go under. She needs you." Wolfe set his book down, a rare concession. His fingers steepled over his belly. "An algorithm, you say?" "Explain?" Saul leaned against the desk, lighting a cigarette. "It's like a recipe, but for a machine. A set of instructions, coded on punch cards, those little cards with holes that tell the computer what to do. This one's a beaut, analyzes market data, spots patterns, and places trades faster than any broker. Evelyn wrote it herself, says it's worth more than the company itself. Last Thursday, it vanished from a safe only she and her boss could open. No signs of a break-in. Wolfe's eyes narrowed, a gleam sparking in their depths. A mechanical mind pilfered from a fortress. Intriguing. And the police? "Useless," Saul said. "They don't understand the tech, and the thief's too slick. Evelyn's desperate. She's waiting at my place, but she'll come here if you say the word." Wolfe grunted, a sound that could mean anything from disdain to delight. "Very well. Archie, call Fritz. We shall require coffee and perhaps sandwiches. Mr. Panzer, fetch this Miss Carver. But Saul," his voice dropped, a velvet warning, "ensure she is prepared to answer fully. I detest half-truths." Saul nodded and was gone. I buzzed Fritz in the kitchen, relaying Wolfe's orders, then settled back to watch the big man. His fingers drummed lightly on the armrest, a sign his brain was already turning over the puzzle. "Archie," he said after a moment, "what do you know of these computers?" "Not much," I admitted. "They're like giant adding machines, only smarter. Punch cards go in, answers come out. Supposed to change the world, or so the eggheads say." "Eggheads," Wolfe murmured, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "An apt term. We shall see if this machine's mind is as clever as claimed." An hour later, the doorbell rang again. I ushered in Evelyn Carver, and if ever a dame was built to turn heads, she was it. Mid-30s, auburn hair swept into a sleek chignon, green eyes that missed nothing, and a tailored navy coat that said she wasn't hurting for cash. But her hands betrayed her, fingers twisting a silk scarf, knuckles white. She was scared, and good at hiding it, but not good enough for me. "Miss Carver," I said, offering a chair, "I'm Archie Goodwin." "That's Nero Wolfe. Coffee's coming. Tell us your story, and don't skip the garnish." She sat, crossing her legs, with a grace that didn't quite mask her nerves. "Mr. Wolfe, Mr. Goodwin, thank you for seeing me. I'm a programmer at CyberTech Solutions, a company developing computational systems for financial analysis. My algorithm, it's called the Carver Sequence, is a program that predicts stock market trends. It's coded on 72 punch cards, stored in a safe in our Manhattan office. Last Thursday night, it was stolen. No forced entry, no clues. And now someone's using it to manipulate trades on Wall Street. My company's losing millions, and if this gets out, we're finished." Wolfe leaned back, eyes half closed, a pose I knew meant he was soaking up every word. "Miss Carver, describe this algorithm, its function, its value, and why it is worth stealing." Evelyn took a breath, steadying herself. "The Carver Sequence is a set of instructions that processes market data, stock prices, trading volumes, economic indicators. It finds patterns no human could spot, predicts price shifts with 85% accuracy, and executes trades in seconds. It's like having a broker who never sleeps, never makes mistakes. Each punch card holds a piece of the logic. Remove one, and the whole thing collapses. The safe was a Mosler, combination lock, known only to me and Dr. Leonard Marsh, my boss. The cards were there Wednesday night. Thursday morning, gone. And the safe? Wolfe asked. Its condition? Untouched, she said. No scratches, no burns, no signs of tampering. The police checked for fingerprints. Nothing. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were after and how to get it. Wolfe's fingers traced the rim of his glass. And the trades? How do you know the algorithm is in use? Patterns, she said. I've been monitoring the market. There's a series of trades, small, precise, across multiple stocks that match the sequence's signature. They're draining accounts tied to CyberTech's clients. It's subtle, but I know my work. Someone's running my program. I leaned forward. Any enemies, Miss Carver? Rivals? Jilted lovers? Someone who'd want to stick it to you or the company? Her eyes flicked to me, cool but wary. CyberTech's a small outfit, but we're making waves. Competitors like Datatron might love to get their hands on our tech. Internally, Dr. Marsh has been under pressure. Investors are antsy, but no one stands out as a thief. Wolfe grunted. Miss Carver, who else has access to the office? And describe your colleagues. She hesitated, then listed them. Dr. Leonard Marsh, the director, brilliant but high-strung, always chasing funding. Roger Tate, our salesman, smooth talker, knows everyone on Wall Street. Clara Hensley, the secretary, quiet, keeps to herself. Vincent Cole, our lead technician, young, obsessive about code. And me. That's the core team. The office is locked at night, and only Marsh and I have keys to the safe room. Security measures? I asked. Night guard. Basic alarm system, she said. The guard saw nothing unusual Thursday night. The alarm never tripped. Wolfe's eyes opened fully, a rare event. A safe that yields without protest, an alarm that sleeps, and a guard who sees nothing. Either your thief is a phantom or someone is lying. Miss Carver, I will take the case. My fee is substantial, but you appear solvent. Archie will discuss terms. I require full access to your office, your staff, and your records. You will also provide a detailed schematic of this algorithm, its logic, not its code. Evelyn nodded, relief softening her features. Thank you, Mr. Wolfe. I'll get you everything by tomorrow. Fritz arrived with a tray, coffee, cream, and a plate of his famous ham sandwiches. Evelyn took a cup, her hand steadier now. I walked her out, noting the way she scanned the street before stepping into a cab. Nervous, but sharp. I liked her. Back in the office, Wolfe was already back in his book, but I knew better. His brain was hooked. Archie, he said without looking up, tomorrow, visit this CyberTech. Examine the safe, the office, the staff. Note their demeanors, their desks, their habits, and bring me anything that smells of deceit. I grinned. You think it's an inside job? I think nothing yet, he snapped. I observe. Now, leave me to my orchids. I left him to it, but my gut was already churning. A stolen algorithm, a locked safe, and a room full of suspects, each with their own secrets. This wasn't just a heist, it was a puzzle wrapped in a riddle, and Wolfe was already sharpening his knives to cut through it. The next morning, I headed to CyberTech's office in Midtown, a sleek new building with glass doors and a lobby that screamed ambition. The receptionist, a kid with too much Brill cream, waved me up to the 5th floor. The office itself was a different world, rows of desks cluttered with papers, slide rules, and those clunky punch card machines humming like overworked bees. The air smelled of ozone and coffee, and the faint clack of typewriters mixed with the whir of cooling fans. I started with the safe room, a small windowless space at the back. The Mosler safe dominated it, a gray steel beast with a dial as big as a dinner plate. I checked it over. No scratches, no dents, no signs anyone had so much as breathed on it wrong. The lock turned smoothly when I tested it with Evelyn's combination, which she'd given me that morning. I poked around the room, a filing cabinet, a chair, a bare bulb overhead. Nothing out of place, but the hairs on my neck stood up. Too clean, maybe. Next, I met the players. Dr. Leonard Marsh was a wiry man in his 50s, with a pencil mustache and a tie loud enough to wake a coma patient. He fidgeted as he talked, his eyes darting like he expected the walls to close in. "Mr. Goodwin, this is a disaster," he said, mopping his brow. "The investors are breathing down my neck. If we don't recover that algorithm, we're sunk." "Any idea who'd want it?" I asked. He hesitated. "Competitors, perhaps. Datatron's been sniffing around, but no one here would betray us. I trust my team." Sure he did. I moved on to Roger Tate, the salesman who leaned against a desk like he owned the place. Mid-40s, slick as an oil spill, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Goodwin, right? Heard you're Wolfe's legman. Must be a cushy gig, running errands for a genius." "Cushy's one word for it," I said. "Where were you Thursday night?" "Out," he said, lighting a cigarette. "Schmoozing clients at the Starlight Lounge. Business as usual." "Anyone vouch for you?" His grin widened. "Plenty of dames, but no one you'd call reliable." Clara Hensley, the secretary, was next. A mouse of a woman, early 30s, with glasses and a nervous habit of tucking her hair behind her ears. She answered my questions in monosyllables, claiming she'd been at choir practice Thursday night. "I don't know anything about the safe," she said, eyes on her typewriter. "I just file papers." Vincent Cole, the tech whiz, was a gangly kid, maybe 25, with a mop of dark hair and ink-stained fingers. He was hunched over a punch card reader, muttering to himself. "Mr. Goodwin, I'm busy," he said, barely looking up. "Debugging a sorting routine." "What do you want?" "Just your Thursday night," I said. "Where were you?" "Home," he snapped. "Working." "Alone." His tone was sour, and his eyes flicked toward Evelyn, who was across the room, checking a stack of printouts. Interesting. I spent the rest of the day poking around, noting details for Wolfe, the brand of coffee in the break room, Maxwell House, the typewriters, mostly, Remingtons, the way Tate's desk was cluttered with racing forms, and how Clara's had a single photo, a kid brother maybe. Cole's workspace was a chaos of wires and manuals, while Evelyn's was neat as a pin, with a locked drawer I made a mental note to check later. Back at the brownstone, I laid it all out for Wolfe over dinner. Fritz's roast duck, which he savored with a reverence most men save for prayer. "The safe's clean," I said, passing him a sketch of the room. "No forced entry, just like she said. Marsh is a nervous wreck, Tate's a snake, Clara's hiding something, and Cole's got a chip on his shoulder. Oh, and Evelyn's desk has a locked drawer. Could be nothing, could be something Wolfe chewed thoughtfully, then dabbed his lips with a napkin. Archie, a safe that opens without protest suggests intimacy with its secrets. The thief had access, physical or intellectual. Obtain the personnel files, including backgrounds, and their alibis, verify them, start with Mr. Cole. His solitude is suspicious. I nodded, already planning my next moves. "You think it's an inside job?" "I think," he said, eyes glinting, "that machines may be clever, but men are devious. We shall see which prevails." That night, I typed up my notes, the clatter of keys mixing with the distant hum of the city. Wolfe was upstairs with his orchids, but I knew his mind was downstairs, turning over the pieces of this digital puzzle. A stolen algorithm, a cast of suspects, and a safe that whispered betrayal. This was no ordinary heist. It was a game, and Nero Wolfe was already 3 moves ahead. Chapter 2. The Scene of the Crime. The morning after Evelyn Carver's visit, I woke to the aroma of Fritz's coffee and the distant clatter of pans, a signal that breakfast was imminent. The brownstone was still, save for the faint creak of floorboards as Nero Wolfe descended from his orchid rooms at precisely 11 a.m., his daily ritual as unyielding as gravity. I was already at my desk, sipping coffee strong enough to wake a corpse when he entered the office, his bulk filling the doorway like a storm cloud. He settled into his chair, adjusted the blotter precisely 1 inch, and fixed me with a stare that could peel paint. "Archie," he said, voice low and deliberate, "you will visit this CyberTech Solutions today. Examine the premises thoroughly, the safe, the office, the people. Note every detail, however trivial. I require a map of the environment, both physical and human. And do not," he added, raising a finger, "engage in your usual flirtations. We are dealing with a mind that outwits machines." I grinned. "No promises on the flirtations, boss, but I'll keep my eyes open and my notebook full." He grunted, dismissing me with a wave as Fritz arrived with a tray of shirred eggs and sausages. I grabbed my hat and coat, the October chill biting as I stepped onto West 35th Street. Manhattan was alive with the hum of taxis, the shouts of newsboys, and the faint tang of coal smoke in the air, a noir postcard of 1955, all grit and glamour. I hailed a cab and headed to CyberTech's Midtown office, my mind already turning over Evelyn's story, a stolen algorithm, a pristine safe, and a thief who moved like a shadow. The CyberTech building was a sleek, modern affair, its glass facade reflecting the gray sky. The lobby was all marble and chrome, with a receptionist who looked like he'd been poured into his suit. He waved me up to the 5th floor without a second glance, probably assuming I was another investor come to gawk at their mechanical marvels. The elevator hummed, depositing me into a world that felt like it belonged in a science fiction flick. The office was a sprawling open space, maybe 50 feet by 30, with high ceilings and windows that let in just enough light to make the shadows interesting. Rows of desks were cluttered with typewriters, stacks of punch cards, and those hulking computers, gray metal boxes with blinking lights and whirring fans that gave off a faint buzz like a hive of electronic bees. The air smelled of warm metal, ink, and stale coffee, a sharp contrast to the brownstone's cozy musk. I started with the safe room, tucked at the back behind a heavy oak door with a brass lock. Evelyn had given me the key and the safe's combination, scrawled on a slip of paper in her precise handwriting. The room was small, maybe 10 by 10, with bare plaster walls and a single overhead bulb casting stark light. The Mosler safe dominated the space, a steel monolith 3 feet wide and 4 feet tall, its dial gleaming like a cyclops' eye. I knelt, inspecting it closely. No scratches, no burn marks, no hint of a crowbar's kiss. The dial spun smoothly under my fingers as I tested the combination, 174289, and the door swung open with a soft click. Inside, empty shelves stared back, mocking the idea of a heist. I checked the hinges, the frame, even the floor for trapdoors or hidden panels. Nothing. The safe was as clean as a preacher's conscience. I stepped back, sketching the room in my notebook. Door, Safe, bulb, a single metal chair, and a filing cabinet in the corner. The cabinet held contracts and invoices, all mundane, but I noted the lock, a flimsy thing, easily picked. The room felt wrong, too sterile, like a stage set for a play no one had rehearsed. I locked up and moved to the main office, where the CyberTech crew was already at work, oblivious or pretending to be. Dr. Leonard Marsh, the director, was pacing near a window, his wiry frame taut as a bowstring. His tie, a garish red and yellow number, clashed with his gray suit, and his mustache twitched as he muttered to himself. I approached, notebook in hand. "Dr. Marsh, Archie Goodwin. Mind if I ask a few questions?" He stopped, blinking rapidly. "Goodwin? Oh, yes, Evelyn mentioned you. Terrible business, this theft. Terrible. What do you need?" "Start with Thursday night," I said. "Where were you?" "A lecture," he said quickly. "At Columbia, on computational theory. I was there until 10, then home. I live alone, so no one can confirm that part, but the lecture hall was packed. Anyone see you leave?" He hesitated, his tick kicking in, a twitch of the left eye. "I may have left early, felt unwell, but I didn't come here, if that's what you're implying." I jotted that down, noting the sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool room. Who else knew the safe's combination? "Just me and Evelyn," he said. "It's a strict protocol. The algorithm's our crown jewel." I nodded, moving on to Roger Tate, the salesman, who was lounging at a desk cluttered with racing forms and cigarette butts. He was mid-40s, with slicked-back hair and a smile that could sell ice to penguins. "Goodwin," he drawled, lighting a lucky strike. "Come to play detective?" "I'm an open book." "Great," I said, leaning against his desk. Chapter 1. Where were you Thursday night? "Starlight Lounge," he said, without missing a beat. "Schmoozing clients. Wall Street types love a free drink. Stayed till midnight, maybe later. Names of these clients?" He exhaled smoke, grinning. "You know how it is, Goodwin. Faces blur after a few martinis, but I wasn't here, if that's your angle." I made a note, vague alibi, checked the lounge, then moved to Clara Hensley, the secretary. She was at a typewriter, her glasses slipping down her nose as she pecked at keys. Early 30s, mousy brown hair, and a dress that looked like it came from a Sears catalog. She froze when I approached, her hands hovering over the keys. "Miss Hensley, Archie Goodwin. Just a few questions. Thursday night. Where were you?" "Choir practice," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Saint. Luke's church, until 9. Then home. I live with my mother. Anyone see you at church?" "The choir director, Mr. Phelps," she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "And the others. There were 12 of us. Solid, but I'd check it." Her desk held a single photo, a young man, maybe 20, with her eyes. "Your brother?" I asked. She nodded, blushing. "Mickey. He's away a lot." I filed that away and moved to Vincent Cole, the tech whiz, who was hunched over a punch card reader, muttering about binary strings. He was young, maybe 25, with a lanky frame and ink-stained fingers that never stopped moving. His desk was a jungle of wires, manuals, and coffee cups, a stark contrast to Evelyn's orderly setup nearby. "Mr. Cole," I said, "Archie Goodwin. Got a minute?" He didn't look up. "I'm debugging a sorting routine. Make it quick. Thursday night," I said. "Where were you?" "Home," he snapped. "Working. I don't punch a clock for fun. Alone?" "Yeah." His eyes flicked to Evelyn, who was across the room, sorting printouts. "What's it to you?" "Just doing my job," I said, noting his defensiveness. You close with Miss Carver?" He flushed, his jaw tightening. "We work together." That's all I let it go, but his glance at Evelyn lingered in my mind. I spent the next hour poking around the office, cataloging details for Wolfe. The break room had a percolator and a tin of Maxwell House, half empty. The typewriters were mostly Remingtons, except for Clara's, an older Underwood. Tate's desk had a racing form dated Wednesday, circled with bets that didn't pay off. Clara's photo of her brother was in a cheap frame, the glass smudged. Cole's workspace was chaos, but I spotted a notebook with equations that looked like gibberish to me, probably code-related. Evelyn's desk was pristine, with that locked drawer I'd noticed yesterday. I didn't try it, not with her nearby, but I added it to my mental list. I saved Evelyn for last. She was at her desk, her auburn hair catching the light as she studied a printout. "Miss Carver," I said, "mind walking me through the office setup? Security, routines, anything odd you've noticed?" She stood, smoothing her skirt. "Of course, Mr. Goodwin. Follow me." She led me through the office, pointing out the alarm system, a basic model, wired to the main door and windows. The night guard, a retiree named Gus, sat in the lobby from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. "Gus is reliable," she said, "but he's not exactly Sherlock Holmes. He didn't see anything Thursday night. Any visitors that day? Delivery men? Clients?" She frowned, thinking. "A courier dropped off paper stock in the afternoon, and a Datatron rep stopped by, but Marsh sent him packing. Otherwise, just us. I made a note to check the courier and the Datatron angle." "That locked drawer on your desk," I said casually. "What's in it?" Her eyes narrowed, but she smiled. "Personal items, letters, a diary. Nothing to do with the case I didn't push, but her tone was too smooth, like a card sharp hiding an ace." We finished the tour, and I headed back to the brownstone, my notebook bulging with details. Over dinner, Fritz's lamb chops with rosemary, Wolfe listened as I laid it all out. The spotless safe, Marsh's shaky alibi, Tate's slick dodge, Clara's choir story, Cole's attitude, and Evelyn's locked drawer. He chewed slowly, savoring the lamb. "Archie, a safe that yields without force implies knowledge, either of the combination or of a flaw in its design. The absence of evidence is itself evidence. This thief is meticulous, perhaps too much so. Obtain the personnel files, including backgrounds, cross-check their alibis, and this locked drawer, observe Miss Carver closely. Her candor is suspect." I nodded, sipping my coffee. "You think she's holding back?" "I think," he said, eyes glinting, "that in a world of machines, human duplicity remains the constant. We shall unmask it." I spent the evening typing up my report, the typewriter's rhythm a counterpoint to the city's distant pulse. Wolfe was upstairs, no doubt plotting his next move among his orchids. The CyberTech office was a stage, its players hiding their lines, and I had a hunch the real drama was just beginning. Chapter 3. The Suspects Assemble. By Wednesday morning, the pieces were starting to slot into place, at least in my notebook. I'd spent the previous day digging into the CyberTech crew's backgrounds, calling in favors from Saul Panzer, and a couple of contacts at City Hall. The personnel files painted a picture of ambition, desperation, and the usual human frailties that make my job interesting. Dr. Leonard Marsh had a history of failed ventures, 2 startups gone belly up in the last decade, leaving him with debts that could choke a horse. Roger Tate's rap sheet was a novella of small-time cons, from selling phony stocks in the 40s to a brush with embezzlement that got him probation instead of the pen. Clara Hensley's file was spotless, but her brother Mickey Doyle was another story. A petty crook with a limp from a botched burglary, tied to low-level mobsters in Hell's Kitchen. Vincent Cole was a prodigy, fresh out of MIT, but his record showed a temper, expelled from a fraternity for sabotaging a rival's project. Evelyn Carver, our client, had a clean slate, but her resume screamed overachiever, top of her class at Barnard, patents pending on data algorithms. Alibis were next. I hit the phones and the pavement. Marsh's lecture at Columbia checked out, but the organizer confirmed he ducked out early, around 8:30 p.m., pleading a headache. Tate's Starlight Lounge story held water. The bartender remembered him nursing gin rickeys till closing, but couldn't swear he was there the whole time. Gaps like that are a detective's playground. Clara's choir practice was solid. Mr. Phelps at St. Luke's vouched for her, saying she sang alto like an angel. Cole's Home Alone claim crumbled when I visited his landlord, a grizzled vet named Hargrove, who swore Cole left at 8 p.m. sharp, returning after midnight, looking furtive. I laid it all out for Wolfe over lunch, Fritz's crab bisque, thick and creamy, with fresh bread on the side. Wolfe listened, spooning soup with deliberate care, his eyes distant as he processed the data. "Archie," he said finally, setting down his spoon, "summon them. All of them. To the brownstone this evening at 7. Inform Miss Carver that her presence is mandatory. We shall assemble the suspects and observe their interactions. Deceit reveals itself in company." I raised an eyebrow. "You think they'll come?" "Marsh might bolt. Tate could lawyer up." Wolfe's lips curved in that rare predatory smile. "They will come, Archie. Curiosity is a potent lure, and fear even more so. Phrase it as a consultation on the case's progress, and ensure Fritz prepares adequately. Tea, coffee, perhaps pastries. Hospitality disarms. I made the calls. Marsh hemmed and hawed, but agreed. Tate laughed it off as a parlor game, but said he'd be there. Clara sounded terrified, but promised to show. Cole grumbled, but relented. Evelyn was crisp. "I'll be there, Mr. Goodwin." "Thank you." By 6:30, the office was ready. Wolfe's desk gleamed under the lamplight, the red leather chairs arranged in a semicircle facing him like a tribunal. Fritz had set out a sideboard with coffee urn, teapot, and a platter of eclairs that could tempt a saint. I paced the hall, hat in hand, waiting for the doorbell. Evelyn arrived first, her coat draped over one arm, eyes scanning the room like a general assessing a battlefield. "Mr. Wolfe," she said, taking a seat, "I hope this means progress." Wolfe inclined his head. "It does, Miss Carver." Patience. Marsh bustled in next, tie askew, mopping his brow with a handkerchief. "This is highly irregular," he muttered, but he sat, fidgeting like a man on a hot griddle. Tate sauntered in, smirking, lighting a cigarette without asking. "Quite the setup, Wolfe. You do this for all your cases? Feels like a Agatha Christie yarn." Wolfe ignored him, eyes on the door. Clara slipped in quietly, clutching her purse, blushing as she took a chair. Cole was last, slouching in with hands in pockets, glaring at the floor as if it owed him money. With all assembled, Wolfe leaned back, fingers steepled, his voice rolling out like thunder in a velvet glove. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. We are here to discuss the theft of the Carver Sequence. Each of you has a connection to CyberTech and thus to the crime. I shall ask questions. You will answer truthfully. Evasion will be noted." Marsh shifted. "Are we suspects? Should we have lawyers?" Wolfe's eyes bored into him. "You are persons of interest. Lawyers are unnecessary if innocence prevails. Dr. Marsh, you claimed attendance at a Columbia lecture Thursday night. Yet you departed early, around 8:30. Explain your subsequent movements." Marsh's tic flared, his eye twitching like a faulty bulb. I felt ill. A migraine. I took a cab home, rested. I was in bed by 9. "Alone?" Wolfe pressed. "Yes," Marsh admitted, voice cracking. "My wife passed years ago. No one can confirm." Wolfe nodded, turning to Tate. "Mr. Tate, your evening at the Starlight Lounge. You were seen, but not continuously. Gaps exist. Account for them." Tate exhaled smoke, smirking. "Bathroom breaks, phone calls to dames. A man's got needs, Wolfe. I wasn't robbing safes, if that's your drift." "Convenient," Wolfe murmured. "Unverifiable, but convenient." Clara was next. She sat rigid, hands folded. "Miss Hensley, your choir practice, confirmed by Mr. Phelps. Well done. But tell me, does your brother Mickey frequent the office? He has a colorful history." Clara paled, her blush draining away. "Mickey?" "No, sir. He visits sometimes, but not lately. He's trying to go straight." Wolfe's gaze softened fractionally. "Commendable. We shall see." Cole slouched deeper, but Wolfe zeroed in. "Mr. Cole, you assert you were home, debugging code, yet your landlord observed you departing at 8 and returning past midnight. Explain." Cole's head snapped up, eyes flashing. "That old coot? He's half blind. Must have mistaken me for someone else. I was home, I swear." "Lies erode credibility, Mr. Cole," Wolfe said mildly. "Archie, verify Mr. Hargrove's statement further, perhaps with neighbors." I nodded, making a show of noting it. Cole seethed, his fists clenching. Evelyn watched it all, her expression unreadable, but I caught a flicker. Amusement? Satisfaction? She sipped tea, silent. Wolfe continued, probing motives. "Dr. Marsh, your financial straits are known. Debts mount. The algorithm sale could alleviate them." Marsh sputtered. "Absurd. I'd never betray my own company." "Tate, your fraudulent past suggests opportunism." Tate laughed. "Water under the bridge, fat man." "I'm reformed." Wolfe ignored the jab. "Miss Hensley, your brother's ties to unsavory elements, perhaps a favor owed?" Clara shook her head vehemently. "No." "And Mr. Cole," Wolfe said, "your admiration for Miss Carver is evident. Resentment toward Marsh's demands on her time? Sabotage to protect her?" Cole flushed crimson. That's private." The room crackled with tension, accusations hanging like smoke. Wolfe let it simmer, then dismissed them. "You may go, but remain available. The truth emerges." As they filed out, Evelyn lingered. "Impressive, Mr. Wolfe. You've rattled them." "Observation, Miss Carver," he replied. "Now, Archie, deepen the inquiries. Focus on Cole's movements and Clara's brother. The web tightens. I escorted Evelyn out, noting her calm amid the storm. Back inside, Wolfe nursed a beer. "Archie, motives abound, but the method, the untampered safe, points inward. We proceed." The evening's assembly had cracked facades, revealing fissures. As I typed notes late into the night, the city's neon glow filtering through the curtains, I sensed the puzzle shifting, pieces aligning toward revelation. Chapter 4. The Paper Trail. The aftermath of the suspect's assembly lingered in the brownstone like a bad cigar's haze. Wolfe had retired to his orchids, leaving me to sift through the debris of revelations and half-truths. By Thursday morning, my notebook brimmed with leads. Cole's crumbling alibi, Clara's brother Mickey with his mob ties and limp, Tate's slippery charm masking a con man's soul, Marsh's debts, and Evelyn's enigmatic poise. I started the day with coffee black as midnight and a plan to chase down the paper trail. Financial records, correspondence, anything that might link these characters to the stolen algorithm. First stop, the Hall of Records, where a clerk with a face like a prune handed over CyberTech's incorporation papers and financial filings after I flashed my license and slipped him a fin for expediency. The docs painted a grim picture. CyberTech was hemorrhaging cash, overdrawn accounts, unpaid vendors, and a loan from a shady outfit called Apex Finance, known for kneecapping late payers. Marsh's signature was on every dotted line, his desperation etched in ink. I photocopied the lot and moved on. Next, Saul Panzer met me at a diner on 42nd Street, his fedora low, a stack of folders under his arm. "Archie," he said, sliding into the booth, dug into the black market whispers. "Punch cards like Evelyn's aren't common fodder, but there's chatter. A fence in Brooklyn goes by Slider Joe, mentioned a buyer sniffing for high-tech gear. Could be our algorithm." "Linked to our suspects?" I asked, pouring sugar into my Joe. "Slider's known to deal with Mickey Doyle, Clara's brother. Small world." I whistled. "Bingo! What about Tate's old cons?" Saul flipped open a folder. "Tate did time in 47 for wire fraud, but he's been clean, on paper. Word is, he's still running games, just smarter. And Cole? Kid's got debts too, student loans, gambling tabs. Plays the ponies, badly. We split the leads, Saul to tail Slider Joe, me to hit the streets for alibis and dirt. I started with Cole's landlord, Hargrove, in a tenement on the Lower East Side that smelled of cabbage and regret. Hargrove, a burly ex-Marine with a prosthetic leg, confirmed his story over a beer I bought him. "Yeah, the kid left at 8, sneaky-like. Came back after 12, looking like he'd seen a ghost. Heard him pacing all night." "Any visitors? Dames? Pals?" Hargrove shook his head. "Nah, he's a loner. But last week I saw him arguing with a suit, loud tie, mustache. Looked like that boss of his, Marsh." "Marsh and Cole? Intriguing." I thanked Hargrove and headed to St. Luke's Church, where Mr. Phelps, the choir director, a portly man with a voice like honeyed gravel, verified Clara's presence. She was here singing Ave Maria like a lark, left at 9 sharp. But as I turned to go, Phelps added, "Her brother picked her up, though." Limpy fella, Mickey, seemed agitated. Mickey's shadow loomed larger. I grabbed a hot dog from a vendor and chewed on. The implications while cabbing to the Starlight Lounge, a dim joint with velvet booths and a piano player mangling Autumn Leaves. The bartender, a redhead named Rosie with a tattoo of an anchor on her forearm, remembered Tate. Sure, Slick was here. Drank like a fish, flirted with every skirt. But he stepped out around 9 for a meeting, back by 10, smelling of cheap perfume. A Gap and perfume, maybe a dame, maybe cover. I noted it and swung by Apex Finance, a grubby office above a pawn shop. The lone shark, a weasel named Vito, eyed me suspiciously, but loosened up when I mentioned Marsh. "Yeah, Doc's in deep, 50 grand, interest compounding like rabbits. He's been stalling payments. Said he'd have a windfall soon." Windfall like selling a hot algorithm? The trail heated up. Back at the brownstone, Fritz had lunch ready, veal cutlets with mushroom sauce, Wolfe's favorite. I reported between bites, laying out the files on Wolfe's desk. Marsh's debts are a motive masterpiece. Cole's alibi is Swiss cheese, and he's been seen arguing with Marsh. Clara's clean, but Mickey's popping up everywhere, picking her up, dealing with fences. Tate's got a hole in his night, and Apex says Marsh expects cash soon. Wolfe savored a cutlet, eyes half closed. "Archie, the paper trail weaves a tapestry of greed. Dr. Marsh's liabilities suggest desperation. Mr. Cole's secrecy implies complicity. Mickey Doyle as intermediary? Plausible. But the safe, untampered, demands insider knowledge. What about Evelyn? I asked. Her locked drawer bugs me. Wolfe grunted. Observe her. But first, summon Saul. His findings? Saul arrived post-lunch, hat in hand. Slider Joe's a ghost, but I tailed him to a warehouse in Red Hook, met a limper, Mickey Doyle, exchanged a package, small, like a stack of cards. Wolfe's eyes gleamed. The algorithm? Or bait? Couldn't get close, Saul admitted, but Mickey headed uptown after. Wolfe leaned back. Archie, pursue Mickey Doyle, discreetly. Saul, monitor Tate. The threads converge. I hit the pavement again, tracking Mickey through Hell's Kitchen dives. He was easy to spot, short, stocky, with a pronounced limp from a fall off a fire escape during a heist gone south. I shadowed him to a bar called O'Malley's, where he nursed a whiskey, glancing at his watch. At 8, a figure joined him, Vincent Cole, looking twitchy. I edged closer, ears straining. You got the stuff? Cole whispered. Mickey slid an envelope across. Yeah, but this is hot. Marsh'll kill us if... Cole snatched it. Shut up. Evelyn can't know. They parted, Cole heading east. I tailed him to his tenement, where he vanished inside. What was in the envelope? Punch cards. Payoff. I reported back to Wolfe over dinner. Fritz's beef bourguignon, rich and steaming. Cole and Mickey, thick as thieves. Mentioned Marsh and Evelyn. Something's brewing. Wolfe nodded, forking beef. The paper trail extends to human connections. Archie, tomorrow. Confront Cole. Gently. Elicit confession or slip. As night fell, I typed notes. The city's hum a backdrop. The trail was paper, but the stakes were flesh and blood. Wolfe's puzzle assembled, one deceit at a time. Chapter 5. The Hidden Cache. The brownstone was quiet Thursday night, save for the faint clink of Wolfe's beer bottle against his desk and the scratch of my pen as I updated case notes. The meeting with Cole and Mickey Doyle at O'Malley's had lit a fire under me. Their whispered talk of the stuff, and Evelyn's name ringing like a warning bell. Wolfe, fresh from his orchid rooms, listened to my report with eyes half closed, his mind no doubt sorting the threads of greed and betrayal into a pattern only he could see. Archie, he said, setting the bottle down with a deliberate clunk, the envelope suggests a transaction, but its contents remain speculative. Punch cards? Money? A decoy? Mr. Cole's secrecy implicates him, and Mr. Doyle's involvement ties to Clara. Return to CyberTech tomorrow. Search for physical evidence, a hiding place perhaps. 72 punch cards require space, concealment. The safe was a stage. The real cache is elsewhere. I nodded, sipping coffee Fritz had left, warming on the sideboard. You think the cards never left the office? I think, Wolfe said, that a thief bold enough to steal from a Mosler, but clever enough to leave no trace, would not risk carrying such a prize through Manhattan's streets. Search the office. Every corner Friday morning, I was back at CyberTech's Midtown office by 9, the city's pulse already throbbing with horns and shouts. The office hummed with its usual electric buzz, computers whirring, typewriters clacking, and the faint smell of ozone mingling with cigarette smoke. Evelyn was at her desk, poring over a stack of printouts, her auburn hair catching the light. Marsh was in a glass-walled office, arguing on the phone, his loud tie a beacon of bad taste. Tate was absent. Saul's tale had him at a breakfast meeting with Wall Street types. Clara typed furiously, avoiding my gaze, and Cole was hunched over his punch card reader, muttering curses at a jammed mechanism. I started my search subtly, chatting up Clara about filing systems while eyeing her desk. Nothing but pens, a calendar, and that smudged photo of Mickey. I moved to Tate's desk, rifling through drawers under the pretense of borrowing a pencil, racing forms, a flask, and a dog-eared address book, juicy, but no punch cards. Cole's workspace was a nightmare of wires and manuals, but a quick sweep revealed only crumpled coffee cups and scribbled equations. The storage closet caught my eye, tucked behind a row of filing cabinets. It was unmarked, with a flimsy lock that screamed afterthought. I waited until Evelyn stepped out for a call and slipped inside, closing the door behind me. The closet was cramped, smelling of dust and old paper, stacked with boxes of office supplies, reams of paper, ink bottles, spare typewriter ribbons. I moved a crate of manuals and spotted it, a metal box about the size of a bread box, shoved against the wall. It was painted to blend with the plaster, nearly invisible unless you were looking. The lock was cheap, a pin tumbler job I could have picked in my sleep. I pulled my lockpick set, kept handy for just such occasions, and had it open in 30 seconds. Inside, a cavity just big enough for a stack of punch cards. But it was empty, the metal cold and mocking. I cursed under my breath. The box was a perfect hideout, discreet, accessible, overlooked. Someone had used it, or planned to, but the cards were gone. I checked for prints, using a handkerchief to dust the edges. Smudges, but nothing clear. Gloves, probably. I relocked the box, replaced the crate, and slipped out, my mind racing. The empty box meant the cards had been moved, or never there. A decoy? A staging area? I needed more. Back at the brownstone, I reported to Wolfe over lunch, Fritz's sole Meunier, delicate and buttery. Found a metal box in a closet, I said, sketching its dimensions on a napkin. Hidden, locked, perfect for 72 cards, but empty. Someone's playing chess, and we're a move behind, Wolfe chewed thoughtfully, eyes glinting. A hidden cache, Archie, suggests premeditation. The thief anticipated scrutiny. The box's emptiness is as telling as its presence. Either the cards were retrieved, or it was a feint. Saul's report on Mr. Doyle? Saul had called earlier, and I relayed it. He's still tailing Mickey. Saw him meet another contact last night. Tall guy, no limp, near the docks. Another package changed hands. Saul's digging into the contact's identity. Wolfe nodded. Good. The web tightens. Archie, watch Mr. Cole. His meeting with Doyle implicates him. Miss Carver's role remains unclear. Her desk, that locked drawer. Apply pressure, subtly. And Saul must pursue this new contact. I spent the afternoon tailing Cole, who left the office at 4, heading to a greasy spoon in Chelsea. He sat alone, nursing coffee and scribbling in a notebook. I kept my distance, blending with the lunch crowd. At 5, he met a woman, blonde, mid-30s, cheap coat, nervous eyes. They spoke briefly, heads close, then parted. No package, but her face stuck with me, hard, like she'd seen too many bad nights. I called Saul from a payphone. Cole's meeting dames now, blonde, jittery, tracker. On it, Saul said. Mickey's holed up in a flophouse. I'll check the docks again tonight. Dinner was Fritz's pork tenderloin, and Wolfe was in a rare talkative mood. Archie, the box is a pivot. Its discovery shifts suspicion inward. Someone with access, knowledge of the office's nooks. Cole's movements, Doyle's exchanges, suggest a network. But Miss Carver, she hired us. Her motives bear scrutiny. I leaned back, sipping milk, to counter the pork's richness. "You think she's playing us?" "I think," Wolfe said, "that a woman who crafts algorithms to outwit markets is capable of outwitting us. Observe her. Tomorrow, confront Cole. We stir the pot." As I typed notes that night, the city's neon flickering outside, the empty box loomed in my mind, a silent clue in a game where every move hid a lie. Chapter 6. The Shadow Tale. The discovery of the empty metal box in CyberTech's storage closet had shifted the case like a gear clicking into place, but it left more questions than answers. Wolfe, ever the strategist, had me on Cole's trail, convinced the young tech whiz's secretive meetings held the key. Saturday morning broke gray and drizzly, the kind of weather that turns Manhattan into a watercolor of smeared neon and wet pavement. I grabbed my fedora and overcoat, the fabric heavy with the promise of rain, and headed out to pick up Cole's scent from his Chelsea tenement. Tailing someone in this city is an art, part ballet, part poker. Stay close enough to read their moves, far enough not to spook them. Cole emerged at 10, collar up against the mist, hands jammed in pockets. He moved fast, dodging puddles on sidewalks crowded with umbrellas and newsboys hawking headlines about Eisenhower's latest speech. I kept 2 blocks back, using shop windows and crowds for cover. He hopped the subway at Penn Station, heading downtown, and I slipped into the next car, peering through the grimy glass. He got off at Canal Street, weaving through Chinatown's labyrinth of fish markets and dim-sum joints, the air thick with garlic and steam. He paused at a payphone, dialing quick, then ducked into a jazz club called the Blue Note, its sign flickering even in daylight. I waited across the street in a doorway, rain pattering on my hat. After 20 minutes, he emerged, glancing over his shoulder, paranoid, but amateur. He hailed a cab and I flagged one behind, telling the driver, "Follow that yellow, but easy." The cab twisted through traffic to the docks, where the Hudson's gray waters lapped at rusting piers under a sky like bruised fruit. Cole paid and vanished into the shadows of warehouses, their corrugated walls echoing with gulls' cries and distant horns. I paid my fare and followed on foot, sticking to alleyways, my shoes silent on the wet cobblestones. He met his contact near Pier 42, a short, stocky man in a fedora pulled low, leaning on a crate with a noticeable limp. They huddled, voices lost in the wind, then exchanged a package, small, brown paper tied with string. Cole tucked it under his coat. The limper nodded and melted into the fog. I couldn't get closer without risking exposure. The docks were too open, too quiet. I noted the limper's gait, awkward but deliberate, and snapped a mental photo. Broad shoulders, scarred cheek, visible in a shaft of light. Cole headed back uptown, and I let him go, focusing on the new player. Back at the brownstone, I shed my wet coat in the hall, the scent of river mingling with Fritz's roasting chicken. Wolfe was in the office, nursing a beer, his book on orchids open but ignored. "Archie," he rumbled as I entered, "report." I dropped into my chair, lighting a cigarette. Cole's a busy bee. Subway to Chinatown, payphone call, jazz club pit stop, then docks. Met a limper, short, stocky, fedora. Exchanged a package. Couldn't eavesdrop, but it looked shady. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. A limping man. Describe him further. Scar on the cheek, maybe 40, built like a fire plug. Limp on the left leg, like an old injury. Wolfe grunted, fingers drumming. Cross-reference with known associates. Focus on Miss Hensley's brother and Mr. Tate's fraud cronies. Saul's intelligence may align. I buzzed Saul from the desk phone. He was at his office, voice crackling over the line. "Archie, got something on that blonde Cole met yesterday? Name's Rita Vance, ex-lounge singer, now a courier for shady deals. Tied to Apex Finance, that loan shark outfit Marsh owes." "And the doc's contact?" I asked. Saul paused. "Mickey Doyle Fitz, Clara's brother, limp from a '49 heist, fell 2 stories evading cops. Small time, but connected to the Genovese crew. Delivers packages, no questions." I relayed to Wolfe, who nodded slowly. "Mickey Doyle, a courier perhaps, but for whom? Marsh, Tate, or Cole himself?" "Likely Cole," I said. "He took the package. Could be the cards or payoff." Wolfe sipped beer. "Speculation. Archie, tail Doyle. Uncover his patrons. Saul, probe Rita Vance. Her link to Apex suggests financial entanglement." The afternoon dragged into evening as I prepared for the tale. Fritz served lunch, chicken fricassee with dumplings, Wolfe's portion generous. Over coffee, Wolfe mused. The shadow tale reveals alliances. Doyle's limp is a marker, his role pivotal. But the algorithm's path, stolen, hidden, now moved, points to a syndicate. By dusk, I was in Hell's Kitchen, staking Doyle's flophouse from a diner across the street, nursing pie and coffee. Doyle emerged at 7, limping toward the subway. I followed, blending with commuters. He surfaced in Brooklyn, near Red Hook's warehouses, meeting Slider Joe, the fence Saul mentioned. They exchanged words, then an envelope, similar to Cole's package. I edged closer, hidden by crates, catching snippets. "Cards are hot. Marsh wants 'em back. Tell Cole to lay low." Marsh? The plot thickened. Doyle pocketed the envelope and limped off. I tailed him to a bar in the village where he met Tate. Roger Tate, slick as ever, nursing a martini. Tate slid cash across. "Good work, Mick." "Keep it quiet." Doyle nodded. "What about the dame?" Evelyn sniffing. Tate smirked. "She's handled." I slipped out before they spotted me, heart pounding. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe was in his chair, beer in hand, foul mood evident from his scowl. "Archie, your tardiness irritates." "Worth it," I said, recounting the tales. Doyle to Slider, mentions of Marsh and Cole, then to Tate with cash. Wolfe's eyes gleamed. Alliances form. Tate pays Doyle, who liaises with Cole and Marsh. A conspiracy. But Evelyn, handled? Intriguing? We plotted late, Wolfe draining beers, me typing notes. The shadow tale had unveiled a web, Doyle its limping spider. Tomorrow, the trap. Chapter 7. The Trap is Set. The brownstone hummed with tension. Sunday morning, the air thick with the scent of Fritz's coffee and the faint musk of Wolfe's orchids drifting down from the roof. My tale of Mickey Doyle and his rendezvous with Tate had lit a fuse, and Wolfe was ready to detonate it. Over breakfast, brioche with smoked salmon, a dish that made even Wolfe's scowl soften, he laid out the plan. His voice was low, deliberate, each word a chess move. "Archie," he said, dabbing his lips with a linen napkin, "we have a conspiracy. Mr. Doyle as courier, mister, Cole as operative, mister, Tate as financier and doctor, Marsh, perhaps, as puppet master. But Miss Carver's role remains opaque. We must flush the thief. A trap is required." I leaned back, sipping coffee. "You want to bait them. How?" Wolfe's eyes gleamed, a rare spark of mischief. "A fiction. Miss Carver will circulate a rumor at CyberTech. A second copy of the algorithm exists, hidden here in the brownstone. The thief, greedy or desperate, will act. We shall be ready." I grinned. "You're banking on their nerve-breaking. What's the setup?" He outlined it with the precision of a general. I'd rigged the office with tripwires, thin, nearly invisible threads tied to bells in the basement, a trick Saul had used in a jewelry heist case. We'd borrow a hidden camera from Lon Cohen at the Gazette, a newfangled device Wolfe loathed but tolerated for its utility. The camera would cover the desk where a locked box, supposedly holding the phantom algorithm, would sit as bait. Saul would watch the street, I'd monitor the office, and Wolfe, grudgingly, would stay awake past his usual bedtime. I called Evelyn first, catching her at CyberTech. "Miss Carver, we need you to play a part. Spread word among the staff. A backup of the algorithm's punch cards is stashed at Wolfe's place. Make it sound like you let it slip accidentally." Her voice was cool, controlled. "Clever, Mr. Goodwin. I'll do it, but be careful. Someone's desperate." Next, I rang Saul, who was nursing a hangover from a late-night tailing Rita Vance. "Archie, she's a dead end, drops packages, vanishes. But I'll cover the street tonight. Got the camera from Lon. It's a beaut, infrared, catches shadows in the dark." By noon, I'd rigged the office. The tripwires crisscrossed the floor, low enough to miss unless you knew to look. The camera, a compact box with a lens like a snake's eye, was hidden in a bookshelf, angled at Wolfe's desk. I placed a metal box, borrowed from Fritz's kitchen, once used for storing spices, on the desk, locked with a padlock for show. It was empty, but it gleamed with promise under the desk lamp. Wolfe inspected the setup, grumbling, "Archie, this contraption offends my sensibilities. Mechanical espionage, few I. But necessity compels Sunday night." We waited. Saul was parked in a sedan across the street, binoculars trained. On the brownstone, I sat in the dark office, a .38 in my jacket, the only light a sliver from a street lamp slicing through the blinds. Wolfe, in his bedroom, had promised to stay alert, a bottle of beer at hand to fend off sleep. The city outside buzzed softly, taxis, distant laughter, the occasional wail of a siren. At 1:14 a.m., the bells jingled faintly in the basement. I froze, ears straining. A shadow moved in the hall, silent but clumsy, brushing a tripwire. I crept to the office door, peering through the crack. A figure, hooded, gloved, moving low, eased toward Wolfe's desk. The limp was unmistakable. Mickey Doyle. He fumbled at the box, his breath audible, a rasp of nerves. The camera's shutter clicked softly, infrared catching every move. He tried the lock, cursed under his breath, then froze as if sensing eyes. I stepped out, .38 leveled. "Evening, Mickey." Late for a house call. He spun, eyes wide under the hood, and bolted for the door. I tackled him in the hall, his limp making him slow. He squirmed, but I had a good 50 pounds on him. "Easy, pal." "You're caught." Saul burst in, cuffs ready. We hauled Mickey to the office, where Wolfe, roused and glowering in a yellow dressing gown, awaited. "Mr. Doyle," Wolfe said, voice like a blade, "you trespass in my home, seeking a fiction. Who sent you?" Mickey, sweating, hands cuffed, glared. "Nobody. Thought I'd score." Wolfe leaned forward. "Nonsense. You were hired. The package you gave Mr. Cole, your meeting with Mr. Tate, your underworld ties. Speak, or I shall ensure Inspector Kramer receives a detailed account of your nocturnal wanderings, with photographic evidence." Mickey's defiance cracked like cheap glass. All right. It was Tate, Roger Tate. He said the cards were worth a fortune, said Wolfe had 'em. Paid me $2,000 to lift 'em. I exchanged a glance with Saul. Tate, the slick con, pulling strings. "Where's the real algorithm, Mickey?" I asked. "Don't know," he muttered. "Tate's got it. Or Marsh." "I'd just deliver," Wolfe grunted. "Satisfactory for now. Saul, escort Mr. Doyle to a guest room. Lock him in. Archie, summon Inspector Kramer. Let the police hold him while we pursue Mr. Tate. As Saul marched Mickey out, I dialed Kramer, who was predictably surly at the hour, but promised a squad car. Wolfe settled back, eyes glinting. Archie, the trap has sprung, but the prey is larger. Tate orchestrates, but why? And Miss Carver, her slip was too precise. Tomorrow, we confront. I nodded, the adrenaline fading. The city's pulse thrummed outside, but inside, the trap's echo lingered. Tate was next, and the game was far from over. Chapter 8. The Double Cross. Mickey Doyle's capture in the brownstone's office had cracked the case open like a walnut, but the meat inside was still tough to chew. With Mickey cooling his heels in a guest room under Saul's watchful eye, and Inspector Kramer's boys en route to haul him downtown, Wolfe was already plotting the next move. The Sunday morning drizzle had thickened into a proper rain, drumming on the windows as I briefed Wolfe over breakfast. Fritz's omelet stuffed with chives and Gruyere, paired with coffee strong enough to raise the dead. "Archie," Wolfe said, forking a morsel with precision, "Mr. Doyle's confession implicates Mr. Tate as the orchestrator. His payment of $2,000 suggests access to funds, perhaps from the algorithm's illicit use. We must confront him, but with care. A man of his ilk will evade unless cornered." I nodded, sipping coffee. "Tate's slicker than a greased eel." "You want me to drag him here?" "No," Wolfe said, eyes narrowing. "We go to him. His terrain, his apartment, will reveal his state of mind, panic, preparation, or flight. Arrange it for this afternoon." I raised an eyebrow. Wolfe leaving the brownstone was rarer than a sober politician, but I knew better than to argue when his blood was up. I called Tate's office, catching him at his desk. "Goodwin," he drawled. "What's this, a social call?" "Business," I said. "Wolfe wants a word. Your place, 3 o'clock. Be there, or we come looking." He laughed, but it was thin. "Sure, Goodwin." I'll roll out the red carpet Saul stayed behind to guard Mickey until Kramer's squad arrived, while I prepped Wolfe for the field trip. By 2, we were in a cab, Wolfe's bulk taking up half the back seat, his scowl daring the driver to comment on the rain-soaked traffic. Tate's apartment was in Gramercy, a swanky high-rise with a doorman who looked like he'd seen better days. He waved us up to the 10th floor, where Tate's door was ajar, jazz drifting out, Coltrane, Moody, and Sharp. Tate greeted us in a silk shirt, cigarette dangling, a suitcase half-packed on the couch. "Wolfe, Goodwin," he said, smirking. "To what do I owe the honor?" "Drink?" Wolfe ignored the offer, lowering himself into a leather armchair that groaned under his weight. "Mr. Tate, your associate, Mr. Doyle, was apprehended last night attempting to steal a decoy in my home. He named you as his employer." Explained Tate's smirk didn't waver, but his eyes flicked to the suitcase. "Mickey's a liar. Small-time punk, always looking for a score. You got nothing on me." I leaned against the doorframe, twirling my hat. "Going somewhere, Tate?" "That bag says you're spooked. Vacation," he shot back. "Palm Springs. Sun's good for the soul." Wolfe's voice was velvet over steel. "Indeed. Yet Mr. Doyle claims you paid him $2,000 to retrieve a supposed algorithm from my office. He also delivered a package to Mr. Cole, and you were seen with him in the village. Your hands, Mr. Tate, are far from clean." Tate stubbed out his cigarette, his grin fading. "You're fishing, fat man. No proof, no dice." I stepped closer. "That metal box in CyberTech's closet? Your prints are on it. Found it yesterday, tucked behind manuals. Perfect spot for punch cards. Tate froze, his jaw tightening. I was bluffing. The prints were smudges, unreadable. But he didn't know that. His eyes darted to the suitcase, then back to Wolfe. Wolfe seized the moment. You extracted the safe's combination from Dr. Marsh, leveraging his financial distress. You employed Mr. Doyle to move the algorithm, keeping your distance from the theft. But the box, Mr. Tate, your carelessness betrays you. Where are the cards now? Tate laughed, a brittle sound. You're good, Wolfe, but you're reaching. Marsh? He's a wreck, sure, but I didn't twist his arm. And Mickey? He'd sell his own sister for $1. You want the cards? Look elsewhere, I pressed. Then why the suitcase? Why pay Mickey to break in? Tate's cool cracked. All right, I paid him. Thought you had something hot. Market's buzzing with rumors. Big players want that algorithm. I figured I'd cash in. Who's buying? I snapped. He clammed up, shaking his head. Wolfe rose, a rare effort, his presence filling the room. Mr. Tate, your evasions are noted. Archie, we depart. Inform Inspector Kramer of Mr. Tate's travel plans. He may wish to detain him. We left Tate sweating, his suitcase a silent confession. Back at the brownstone, over Fritz's roast lamb dinner, Wolfe dissected the encounter. Tate is a cog, Archie, not the engine. His panic suggests a larger player. Dr. Marsh's complicity grows likely, his debts, his access. But Miss Carver's silence, she seeded the rumor flawlessly. Too flawlessly, I chewed, thinking. You think she's steering us? I think, Wolfe said, sipping beer, she plays a deeper game. Tomorrow, summon all to the brownstone. We expose the double cross. As I typed notes, rain lashing the windows, Tate's half-packed suitcase loomed in my mind. The trap had caught a pawn, but the king was still in play. Chapter 9. The Final Piece. The confrontation with Roger Tate had peeled back another layer of the CyberTech heist, but the core of the mystery remained stubbornly out of reach. Monday morning dawned cold, the October rain giving way to a sharp wind that rattled the brownstone's windows. Over breakfast, Fritz's pancakes with maple syrup and bacon crisp as autumn leaves, Wolfe was in a rare mood, his usual grumble replaced by a focused intensity. He'd decided to bring the entire cast back to West 35th Street for a final reckoning, a performance to flush out the truth. Archie, he said, spearing a pancake, summon them all, Doctor. Marsh, Mr. Tate, Miss Hensley, Mr. Cole, and Miss Carver. Tonight, 7 o'clock. Inform them it is imperative a resolution to the case, and ensure Inspector Kramer attends. His presence will sharpen their candor. I grinned, wiping syrup from my chin. You're staging a showdown, boss. Kramer'll love being your prop, phooey, Wolfe muttered, but his eyes glinted. He serves a purpose. Now, go, I made the calls. Marsh sputtered about meetings, but agreed. Tate was cagey, his voice tight, but he promised to show. Clara whispered a nervous yes. Cole grumbled, as usual, but didn't refuse. Evelyn was cool as ice. I'll be there, mister. Goodwin. I trust Mr. Wolfe has answers. Kramer reached at the precinct, growled about being dragged into Wolfe's theatrics, but confirmed he'd come, bringing a stenographer and a patrolman for good measure. The day passed in preparation. Fritz outdid himself, setting up the office with a sideboard of coffee, tea, and his almond tarts, their buttery scent filling the room. I checked the tripwires and camera from our trap, ensuring they were dismantled. No need to tip off the guilty. Saul called with a final report. Rita Vance, the blonde Cole met, had vanished, likely spooked, but her Apex finance ties confirmed Marsh's loan was tied to a mob front. Mickey Doyle, still in custody, had clammed up, refusing to say more without a deal. By 7, the office was a stage set for drama. Wolfe sat behind his desk, a beer at hand, his yellow shirt a beacon in the lamplight. The red leather chairs were filled, Marsh, twitching like a man expecting a firing squad. Tate, smirking but pale, handcuffs glinting from Kramer's patrolman nearby. Clara, clutching her purse, eyes darting. Cole, slouched and sullen. And Evelyn, poised, her green eyes scanning the room like a hawk. Kramer stood by the globe, chewing an unlit cigar, his stenographer poised with a notebook. Wolfe began, his voice rolling like a tide. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to resolve the theft of the Carver Sequence, an algorithm stolen from a Mosler safe without trace. The evidence points inward, to this room. Let us assemble the final piece." Marsh shifted, his tie a garish splash of green. "Mr. Wolfe, this is outrageous. I'm a victim here." Wolfe ignored him, eyes on. "Tate. Mr. Tate, you paid Mr. Doyle to invade my home seeking a fictitious algorithm. You orchestrated the theft using Dr. Marsh's combination obtained through his financial desperation." Tate laughed, brittle. "No proof, Wolfe." "Mickey's a liar." Wolfe's gaze shifted to Marsh. "Dr. Marsh, your debts to Apex Finance, $50,000, made you vulnerable. You shared the combination, believing Tate would split the profits from the algorithm's sale." Marsh's face drained of color. I never—" "Silence!" Wolfe snapped. "Your early departure from the Columbia lecture, your nervous demeanor, confirm complicity." Clara gasped, her hands tightening on her purse. Wolfe turned to her. "Miss Hensley, your brother Mickey acted as courier, moving packages for Tate. Your innocence is clear, but your family ties ensnared you." She nodded, tears welling. "I told Mickey to stay away from them." Cole shifted, his fists clenched. Wolfe zeroed in. "Mr. Cole, your alibi for Thursday night collapsed. You met Mr. Doyle, received a package, but your motive was not greed, it was loyalty. You love Miss Carver, resent Dr. Marsh's demands on her. You tampered with the safe's lock, making it appear untampered, hoping to expose Marsh's mismanagement." Cole's face reddened. "You can't prove that." "The safe's mechanism," Wolfe said, "showed subtle wear, per Miss Carver's inspection." "Your expertise made it possible." Evelyn's lips parted, a flicker of surprise. Wolfe continued, his voice softening. "But the final piece, ladies and gentlemen, lies with our client." "Miss Carver, you're no mere victim." The room froze. Kramer's cigar twitched. Evelyn met Wolfe's gaze, unflinching. "You constructed the Carver Sequence," Wolfe said, "a masterpiece of logic. But you also constructed this drama, the market manipulations, trades you claimed bore your algorithm's signature, were exaggerated, a lure to draw suspicion. The safe's theft was staged, the cards hidden by you in that metal box Archie found, to expose Marsh's debts and Tate's greed." Evelyn's smile was faint, approving. "Go on, Mr. Wolfe." "You hired me," Wolfe said, "knowing I would unravel the web, forcing Tate to act, Marsh to crack, and Cole to reveal his sabotage. The algorithm never left CyberTech's premises until you moved it, ensuring its safety while flushing out traitors." Marsh sputtered. "Preposterous. She's—" "Quiet," Kramer barked, stepping forward. "Wolfe, you saying the dame played us all?" "Precisely," Wolfe said. "Miss Carver's gambit was brilliant. She manipulated the manipulators." Tate lunged, but the patrolman pinned him. Marsh slumped, confessing. "Tate promised me a cut. I gave him the combination." Cole hung his head, muttering, "I just wanted to protect Evelyn." Wolfe drained his beer. "Inspector, Mr. Tate, and Doctor Marsh are yours. Mr. Cole's tampering warrants scrutiny. Miss Hensley, you are free, but sever ties with your brother." As Kramer's men cuffed Tate and Marsh, Evelyn rose. "Well played, Mr. Wolfe. The cards are safe. I'll retrieve them." Wolfe nodded. "A satisfactory puzzle, Miss Carver. But next time, candor from the start, I escorted the group out, the night air sharp. Back inside, Wolfe settled with a fresh beer, his eyes twinkling. "Archie, a mind that outwits machines is rare. Miss Carver is formidable." I grinned. "And you love it, boss?" He didn't reply, but the case's final piece had clicked into place, sharp and clean. Chapter 10. The Algorithmic Twist. The Brownstones' office felt like a theater after the final curtain, the air heavy with the residue of confrontation and confession. Monday night's showdown had laid bare the threads of the CyberTech Heist, but Wolfe, ever the maestro, wasn't done. As Inspector Kramer's men hauled Roger Tate and Dr. Leonard Marsh off to the precinct, their handcuffs clinking like a metronome to their downfall, Wolfe sat behind his desk, a fresh bottle of beer glistening in the lamplight. Clara Hensley had slipped out, pale and shaken, vowing to cut ties with her brother Mickey. Vincent Cole lingered, his shoulders slumped, his confession of tampering with the safe's lock hanging like a guilty verdict. Evelyn Carver stood by the globe, her auburn hair a soft glow, her green eyes locked on Wolfe with a mix of respect and amusement. I leaned against my desk, arms crossed, waiting for the encore I knew was coming. Wolfe drained his beer, set the bottle down with a deliberate clunk, and leaned back, his voice rolling out like a slow tide. "Ladies and gentlemen, or what remains of you, this case has been a puzzle of human avarice and ingenuity, disguised as a theft of mechanical intellect. But one final twist remains, a flourish to complete the picture." Cole lifted his head, eyes wary. "What now, Wolfe?" "You've got your culprits?" Evelyn's lips twitched, a faint smile. I caught it, and my gut told me she knew what was coming. Wolfe's gaze settled on her, steady and piercing. "Miss Carver, you have played a masterful game. The Carver Sequence, your algorithm, was never stolen. You orchestrated this entire affair, did you not?" The room stilled. Cole's jaw dropped. Kramer, lingering by the door with his stenographer, chewed his cigar harder. I straightened, my grin spreading. Here it was, the kicker. Evelyn didn't flinch. "Go on, Mr. Wolfe. I'm listening." He steepled his fingers, eyes half closed. The facts align thus. The safe, pristine, and untampered, suggested an inside job. Mr. Cole's sabotage of the lock, motivated by his devotion to you, ensured no visible breach. Mr. Tate's greed, fueled by Dr. Marsh's desperation, led him to exploit the combination you subtly allowed Marsh to reveal. Mr. Doyle, a pawn, moved packages to obscure the trail. But the market manipulations, those precise trades you claimed bore your algorithm signature, were a fiction, a mirage you crafted to lure Tate into action. Cole stammered, "Evelyn, you faked it." She turned to him, her expression softening. "Vincent, I had to. The company was rotting, Marsh's debts, Tate's schemes. I needed to expose them without risking the sequence." Wolfe nodded, a rare approval. "You hid the punch cards, Miss Carver, in that metal box Archie discovered in the storage closet. Empty when he found it, because you had already retrieved them, ensuring their safety. You hired me not to. Recover the algorithm, but to unravel the conspiracy within CyberTech, knowing my methods would force the guilty to betray themselves. Kramer growled, "You're saying this was a setup?" "The whole damn case?" "Precisely," Wolfe said. "Miss Carver's gambit was to protect her creation while purging her company of vipers. The rumor of a second algorithm, seeded at my request, was her suggestion, delivered with such guile I nearly missed it. She anticipated Tate's panic, Marcia's collapse, and Cole's loyalty." Evelyn's smile widened, a cat with cream. "You're as good as they say, mister." Wolfe: "The cards are safe, locked in a bank vault since Friday. I planted the market data to mimic the sequence's patterns, simple trades, dressed up to look like my work. Tate took the bait, Marsh crumbled, and Vincent—" She glanced at Cole, regret flickering. "I'm sorry you got caught in the net." Cole shook his head, bitter. "You used me." "I protected CyberTech," she said firmly. "And you, in your way, helped." Wolfe grunted, reaching for another beer. "A satisfactory resolution, Miss Carver. Your intellect rivals your algorithms, but in future, candor with your detective would expedite matters." I laughed, unable to help it. "You love it, boss." "Admit it, a dame outsmarting the lot of us." Wolfe's eyes twinkled, but he said nothing, sipping his beer. Kramer, red-faced, jabbed his cigar at Evelyn. "You wasted police time, lady. I oughta—" "You have your culprits, Inspector," Wolfe cut in. "Mister. Tate for orchestrating the theft, Doctor. Marsh for complicity. Mr. Cole's tampering is a minor infraction, hardly worth your ire. Miss Carver has committed no crime, only a deception to save her company," Kramer muttered, but signaled his men to wrap up. Tate and Marsh were gone, their fates sealed. Cole stood, casting a last look at Evelyn, then shuffled out, shoulders heavy. Clara had already fled, her brother's shadow no longer hers to bear. Evelyn lingered, extending a hand to Wolfe. "Thank you, Mr. Wolfe. Your fee will be wired tomorrow." He took her hand briefly, a rare courtesy. "A pleasure, Miss Carver. Mind your pawns next time I escorted her out, the night air crisp, the city's neon pulsing beyond the stoop." "You played a hell of a game," I said. "Ever think about detective work?" She laughed, low and warm. "I'll stick to algorithms, mister." Goodwin: "But I'll call if I need a partner." Back inside, Wolfe was settled with his book, Orchids Forgotten for Once. "Archie," he said, not looking up, "a case well concluded, though I detest being a pawn in a client's chess match. Ensure Miss Carver's check clears." I grinned, heading to my typewriter. "You loved every minute, boss." He didn't reply, but the faintest smirk betrayed him. The algorithmic heist was solved, its twist a testament to human cunning over machine logic. Another puzzle, another triumph, wrapped with a flourish only Nero Wolfe could deliver.